Have you ever had the thought of what would happen if you only ate biltong or beef jerky for an entire month? Yeah, well, neither had I. And I mean, I don't blame you. I don't know why the hell anyone would ever do that. But here we are. And I'm going to tell you my 2 specific reasons that I'm going to be doing this. First is an elimination diet. This is something that my doctors have kind of asked me to do for quite a while to help me with an autoimmune condition that I've got called Eosinophilic esophagitis, which is just a super fancy way of saying you've got a swollen esophagus. The last time I got an endoscopy, it was 0.8 mil wide. So the idea is to figure out what foods are causing the problem by going on an elimination diet for a while and then slowly introducing the foods back in. Hopefully it'll also show us if I get any improvements in like allergic rhinitis, asthma, any of my allergies that I've got, gut dysbiosis, mental health, and even just overall energy levels and anything else that I happen to find from this experiment. The second reason is to see how much my facial structure may or may not change over the next 30 days by eating very hard foods and chewing a lot. There's been a bunch of books that have kind of inspired me to start eating more hard foods into my diet. Oxygen Advantage, Patrick McKeown, Breathe by James Nestor, and more recently Jaws by Paul Ehrlich and Sandra Kahnit. All of these books have kind of opened my eyes to the interesting science and kind of relationship between eating hard foods and proper facial and airway development. This idea soon turned into reality when I got on a call with Luke, the co-founder of Australia's fastest growing healthy snack company, Barbell Foods, who agreed to supply the experiment with enough biltong to last me for the entire month. So the next day I got some blood tests to give me a baseline of my current health, then made the 7-hour journey to their factory, which they wouldn't let me pick up the goods until I joined them for my first ever session of Muay Thai and passed their early morning Granimals workout that I was definitely spewing after about 20 minutes of. But after I made it through that, I got a tour of the offices and I got to meet the meat before it all got packaged up for me. And that brings us to right here, right now, where I'm in the warehouse of Barbell Foods, surrounded by the only calories I'm going to consume over the next 30 days.
Hey, Luke here from Barbell. Connor reached out wanting to do this challenge. We don't normally advocate a biltong only diet, but it'll be interesting to see what comes of this experiment. What a crazy bastard.
So I did actually attempt to start then and there on the 3rd of November, but after making my way through just the first bag, my face and jaw were tired and sore, and I literally couldn't even finish the first bag.
I'm trying to chew my last bit. My jaw is so tired.
I expected my mouth to be a little fatigued, but nothing would prepare me for how kind of sore it was the next day. After literally just one 200-gram bag of like finely sliced, delicious biltong. It wasn't even that I wasn't able to chew it. It was I couldn't even open my mouth past a certain point. But fast forward to the next day after that, 5th of November, this is the day we're starting. This is what my physique looked like. I weighed in at 82 kilos, and after a quick shave, this is what my face and jaw looked like. So what are the rules? Well, I'm only gonna be drinking water and eating biltong. That is it. That is literally all the rules I've got. I don't want to be supplementing anything whatsoever. No magnesium, vitamin C, or any other vitamin minerals, in an attempt to be truthful about this so we can actually see what parameters change. I know for a fact I'll be as interested as you guys watching for my result. Now I know this is meant to just be a results video, but we're gonna do a quick little recap of my journey over the last 4 weeks. So right behind me is the first 2 weeks of biltong. We're gonna see how much I can get through and how much I'm kind of averaging on day. I'm thinking that it's gonna be around the 800 to a kilogram mark. So it might be more, might be less, but let's get underway with our first day and see how much we can get through. So this first week, we're gonna be focusing on these 200-gram packets. Gonna be trying to eat 3 to 4 a day. This stuff is like super finely sliced, so it's super easy to chew. Even though my jaw is still pretty sore. I was expecting to feel much worse than I actually did. My workouts took a bit of a hit, a little more fatigue than usual, and as the body, I guess, is beginning its adaptation to no carbs, the cravings for carbs began to subside on day 4. I felt super zoned in and able to concentrate for long periods of time once the cravings finally went. Also starting to realize the added bonus of not having to cook and clean up anymore, which is something I really didn't even think about when originally starting this. So we're at the end of week 1 now, and all the muscular soreness in my face is pretty much gone. Like my jaw gets tired after multiple hours of chewing the biltong, but the only thing that's causing me trouble now is the biltong getting stuck in my gums and in my teeth. It's a bit of a blessing in disguise because I'm now brushing my teeth multiple times a day. But yeah, it's been super frustrating getting stuck in there, and it actually hurts quite a bit. But the first week kind of seemed pretty easy. It kept me confident that it wasn't going to be that difficult, but I was in for a little bit of a surprise. So we're into week 2 now, and my energy levels have seriously started to take a hit. What I'm deciding to do is I'm going to start getting all the juiciest, kind of fattiest bits. I don't know if you can really tell on camera, but I'm going to start focusing more on those pieces to get my fat content up, and hopefully that'll bring my energy levels up and I won't feel as fatigued. The common recommended ratio when doing a zero carb diet is 70% fat to 30% protein. And I know that the biltong that I'm eating is at 60% protein to 40% fat. And after doing this, there was a noticeable lift in energy. Plus, I also started going to the toilet a little more frequently, as I was only going every 3rd day in the first week, shitting out a few pebbles. So here we are, we're on day 12 today, and I'm finally pulling the trigger on supplementing some salt in my water. I can't deal with the cramps anymore. You guys might think it's cheating, but I think it's kind of necessary. I also got sent another 10 kilograms to get through at the end of this week to keep me going over the next 15 days. Here we go again. 2 more weeks to go. Week 3 was the best week of the entire month by far. Energy was higher than the first 2 weeks and my energy levels were just completely constant. I hit a new personal best on a pull-up, which might have just been due to me weighing less rather than an actual strength level increase. I did a nice run and didn't feel as fatigued as the previous weeks. I went away with some friends and managed not to cheat, even though they were enjoying their nice breakfast, lunch and dinners out while I was just sat there eating biltong. But honestly, it wasn't that bad. And that brings us to our final week, week 4. I don't have much footage from here, and that's because I didn't do much this week. I felt pretty terrible. I'd run out of all the fatty cuts of meat, so I was surviving on my own fat, I guess. Nevertheless, I took it really easy in the gym, really easy in my life, just tried to relax and do nothing too strenuous, as I just didn't really feel up to it, and just keep on pumping through as much biltong as I could. But that brings us to our final day. Here we go. Final day, baby. So I've just arrived back from my blood tests, and I'm very excited to see what will happen from those. That's what we're going to get into now. I also went to the grocery store to get my dinner for tonight, something I'm very excited to eat. Finally, something a little bit different than biltong. Even though I've loved this journey, I am very excited for that meal. But this next section is just going to be all my results, everything I noticed, everything that changed, everything that didn't, all the positives, all the negatives, and everything in between. So let's get into it. So we're going to start off with how much I was eating per day. So I was eating between 600 to 800 grams of biltong per day. You got to remember also that it's quite calorie dense, because for those that don't know what biltong is, it's literally just air dried meat. So it hangs and it dries out over a period of time, usually like 7 to 10 days, something like that. And all you're left with is 1/3 of the weight from a steak than what it would have been. So really it's like, if I'm eating 800 grams of biltong, that's probably equivalent to 2.4 kilograms of steak, which is pretty insane. Nevertheless, it says that 750 grams would be between 1,500 and 2,000 calories. So I was definitely in a calorie deficit most of the time, because I probably burn around 2,500 to 3,000 calories a day. If there's 7,700 calories in a kilogram of fat, well then I'd be expected to probably lose somewhere around like the 4 kilograms of fat range, or 4 kilograms of weight off the body. So here are my physique changes. So I weighed in day 1 at 81.8 kilograms, and by day 30 I weighed in at 78.8 kilograms. Honestly, I found that pretty interesting, considering that a lot of that would have just been water weight that got flushed out when I had no more carbs, kind of filling up the muscles and things like that. So I guess that begs the question is, did it just turn into muscle then? Well, I mean, I'm not sure. You guys can have a look at the images below, and if I look more muscular, I look more muscular. But I think that eating that much biltong every day is probably equal to about 300 grams of protein, which is a lot of protein. And I think that really has some effect at sparing your muscle, because it's not having to break down the muscle tissue because the amino acids aren't coming in from a calorie deficit. So I think that that kind of helps retain a bit of muscle on the body. But I'll let you guys make your own decision on what you think about my physique changes. How did it impact my physical performance? Well, I did switch to kind of shorter sessions in the gym. I was still doing my push-ups and sit-ups and squats every single morning. I didn't see a massive decrease in my ability to do it, but I did, after reintroducing some carbs, notice a very big difference when I went back to doing the push-ups and sit-ups every morning, and I could definitely do a lot more. But for me, a few things went up, a few things stayed the same weight-wise in the gym, but the gym hasn't really been a focus for me the last month. Just doing kind of easier workouts, especially that last week. I took it really easy just because I was out of fat, I was out of energy. It was all just coming from my body. So what was the hardest part of the journey? It has to be chewing for like 4 to 6 hours every single day. Chewing. And for me, like the teeth got sore from bits of biltong getting stuck between my teeth and my gums. It was really painful, but I guess it had a bit of a positive effect because I guess it made me start brushing my teeth like 6 times a day and flossing just as much, because otherwise it would just be too painful with it being stuck in there. Did I experience any digestive issues? I didn't hear my tummy grumble once the entire month. Not that it does a lot anyway, but I didn't hear it. It didn't make a single sound. I didn't even think it was working, to be honest. I also did 2 farts the entire month. I kept count because there were so few of them. In the first week, I was pretty constipated. I think I only went to the toilet twice in the first week. But then after I introduced the more fat into the diet, it started to be a bit more regular, maybe every day or every second day. Now, what we've all been waiting for, the blood tests. So here are the blood test results. First up is a view of my serum chemistry. I'm only going to talk about the things that actually significantly change in the month. First up is urea, which is the only thing in my blood that actually went up and outside of the reference range. It went from 6.7 mmol per litre to 8.0 mmol per litre, which is a 19% increase, with the upper reference range being 7.5. I would pretty easily guess that that was from eating close to 300 grams of protein per day, and urea is a byproduct of protein metabolism, indicating an excessive supply of amino acids circulating the bloodstream. An increase in creatinine was also seen, even though it was already right at the reference range on the before test. It is a common marker that also tends to increase on a high protein diet. Now, the first parameter that went from out of the reference range into the reference range was my levels of uric acid. It saw a 13% drop and is something that has always tended to be elevated for me. Next is alkaline phosphatase, which is now also in the reference range for the first ever time in any blood test I've ever taken. High alkaline phosphatase may be a sign of liver problem or some type of bone disease, so it's good to see that finally come down a bit and into the reference range. One super interesting thing is that my magnesium levels increased 0.79 to 0.98, which tells me either that there was enough magnesium in the meat or that just not eating any processed foods that can sometimes cause malabsorption in the body. So therefore the absorptions increased because I was just eating the meat. Blood glucose remained pretty similar across the board. Hormones showed no groundbreaking changes. I would have guessed that they would have plummeted after not having enough cholesterol for conversion, but it stayed pretty steady. Total testosterone went from 22 mmol per litre to 23.1, which is 666 nanograms per deciliter. My SHBG dropped from 46 mmol per litre to 39 mmol per litre, and my free testosterone increased from 372 pmol per litre to 442 pmol per litre. Now my lipid studies. My total cholesterol increased 8%, triglycerides stayed the same, HDL stayed the same, LDL increased 17%, non-HDL increased 15%. These going up, I'd say, was expected, and what happens on a lower carb diet, it depends on your own view of whether high LDL causes heart disease or not. Obviously there's a big debate there in itself. But as I didn't eat any sugar, I'm not worried that my chances of heart disease have increased at all. The final tests here are my hematology results, where there were no significant differences in red blood cell results, but my white blood cell count dropped 24%, mainly from neutrophils dropping from 4.1 to 2.4, so nearly halving, which may not necessarily be a good thing or a bad thing. It could be either, depending on the reason for the drop. If they go too low, maybe you're more prone to things, but if they were already high and too elevated, that indicates that it was already fighting an infection or some type of negative thing going on in the body. Now, vitamin C levels, they dropped to outside of the reference range from 24 umoles per litre to 8 umoles per litre. There's not much vitamin C in muscle meat especially, so it would obviously make sense. I was having no carbohydrates, so vitamin C isn't as needed to help the body deal with all the carbs in the system, but nevertheless still interesting to see here. How did I feel during the 30 days? Well, it's probably easy to explain with this kind of graph here. Usually you eat carbs and your energy can go up. Then depending on how steep the spike is in insulin, you just kind of crash after and feel less energetic and more tired. But because I was just eating biltong and no carbs whatsoever, my energy was just completely flat. It felt like I had a higher baseline and there were just no spikes up and down. It was just completely constant. Something that might not really make sense until maybe you guys try a zero carb or low carb diet. How did it affect my mental health and kind of overall mood? Well, I think it kind of negatively did. I think at the beginning I was very irritable, especially dealing with the cravings in the first week. Probably just linked to high levels of alertness and autonomic arousal. But after that, I don't know, I feel like I had a bit of an increase in anxiety. I feel like I was a bit out of routine because I mean, I didn't have my breakfast, lunch, dinner routines going. That was all just out the window. So instead I was just snacking all day, kind of every day, because it took so long to chew all the food. And I think without those kind of anchor points throughout your day, it gives you more of a chance to be anxious and what am I doing next? What am I doing next? Rather than just sticking to your routines. But outside of that, no other big changes. The next one, I guess, is facial structure. How much did that change? Well, this is me on the first day. This is what I looked like on day 30 with a little bit of a beard going on. And this is what I look like day 30 without the beard. And here they are side by side. I tried to keep the lighting similar so that you guys are able to decide if you can see any differences in my face. I felt the muscles in my jaw were absolutely rock hard after the 30 days, like they had a permanent pump at all times. My girlfriend, she thinks she can see a difference, even though I don't really see too much of a change, but I can definitely feel the change, if that makes sense. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you guys can see. Now, did I cheat at all? Well, yes and no. You guys can make up your own mind. First thing I did was Prime came out in Australia and I wanted a sip of that. I tried it. It's supposed to be electrolyte fueled, whatever. It was so sweet and disgusting. Probably won't have it again. Second one was I ended up adding salt and supplementing with salt just because of how bad the cramps were. Like as soon as I added the salt in, all the cramps went away and I started feeling a lot better. So I know my goal was to do no supplementing whatsoever. And I probably lost out on a bit of potential adaptation of the body with not having the salt, but I was happy to be out of pain and stop cramping. And then I guess the final cheat was drinking something carbonated, which is me when I was out with the boys and I'd get soda water and they'd put some lemon or lime in it. And honestly, that really kind of quenched the thirst and it was very tasty. Now, would I recommend anyone else to do this diet? No, I don't know why you would. Kind of stupid. I mean, unless you're doing an elimination diet. Elimination diets are kind of hard to stick to. So if you just maybe go eat beef, makes it easy and kind of simplifies things. Cravings go super quick. But outside of that, there's probably no reason to. I'm much more likely to recommend actually just eating hard foods, biltong, dried meats, meat in general, or if you're vegan or vegetarian, like I guess harder vegetables to chew on for long periods of time. There's definitely evidence and more things coming out about the importance of chewing hard foods in daily life. But yeah, if you are looking for a high protein snack and you're in Australia, definitely hit up Barbell Foods. You can use my code CC10 at checkout and you get a 10% off, especially if you haven't had biltong before, because it's different. It's definitely different to beef jerky and it's so much tastier. These 200 gram bags are insane. You would think it's expensive, but it's actually not. Comparatively, if you're gonna get 2 steaks from Coles, $20 for 500 grams. You gotta remember that this 200 gram packet is actually like 600 grams of steak. So when you think of it like that, it starts to make a lot more sense. And if you guys are overseas and don't have access to Barbell, just go follow their socials and spam the messages until they expand to your country. But that's all my results. Leave any questions you have down below and I'll try to get back to all of them. This has been a crazy month and I'm very excited to start eating some normal food again, slowly introduce some new foods into my diet. This was my first meal. Might be the best ever meal I've eaten in my life. But I'm so grateful for all of you watching. Subscribe if you want to see some more videos. Click here to see my Andrew Huberman video here that I spent 6 months doing his fitness protocol and it's really helped my life. And I'll see you guys in the next video next week.